Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first DealerOn webinar of the summer. What does that mean to you? It means I have bribed my children with ice cream for breakfast to ensure that they don't get in a wrestling match while I am here with all of you wonderful people. I'm kidding. I didn't bribe them. I threatened them within an inch of their life. All right, I'm kidding. Let's get going. My name is Erin Zaborac. I'm your host and the Director of Marketing for DealerOn. And guess who's back? Back again. Colleen's back. Tell a friend. It's Colleen Harris, the Director of Analytics Consulting, but more importantly, for today's webinar, the Google Whisperer. Colleen, welcome back.
Thank you. Every time I'm here, I've got a new title, but it's all about just being able to talk data and Google and help dealers with it.
Absolutely. I would say I miss you. I missed you, but I talk to you about 15 times a day, so not
For sure.
possible, I think. Let's see. A few logistics while I see people getting settled in. We are recording the training today. We will send you both the deck and recording after the webinar. You should see that Q&A section here in Zoom. I'm going to be hanging out in there and responding to anything that comes in through the webinar. Anytime Colleen is here with us on a session, that Q&A section pops off. So I'm going to do my best to keep up with you today. But ask your questions, give your comments. Don't wait until the end. We want to cover the info that you want to hear. All right. I know we got a lot of stuff, so I want to get right to it. Colleen loves to say it's Google's world. We are just living in it, and it is so true. Although I did spice that up to say we are just optimizing in it
And
because
I like that.
yes, we don't just survive, we thrive, right? So, we've done webinars in the past on GA4, so many webinars on GA4. And Colleen, you had the idea to talk all things Google today, just not just GA4. So
Yeah,
tell us your inspiration for the content. I'm going to go ahead and hang out in the Q&A.
love it. Yeah, so we all know me for the GA4, but I've joked all along that I'm an unofficial product owner of all things Google. So understanding Google Tag Manager, Google Search Console, all of these pieces. So we've always get these questions and we thought, what a better time just to put it all together in 1 hour. All the Google things a dealership should be focused on, what they really mean, what they can do, and just some best practices around that. And that first best practice is the hill that Erin and I will die on. We will continue. For my friends who've been here for a while, new slide, same content on it. You need to be the owner for almost everything, but having that access within your Google properties, your Google entities. First and foremost, troubleshooting any of those properties is a lot easier when Google sees you have ownership of all of that. It should be some sort of dealership Gmail account. So then when somebody wins the lotto and gets to go do all their fun and excitement, other people can get in there too. I've called out specific ownership levels for some of the products, and particularly to call out that for Google Ads, it's the only one where you're going to end up with a read access, and that's okay. Yes, some you can do the ownership, but you get into payment and weirdness like that. And so that's the one, if that your agency is granting you read access for Google Ads, totally good.
Yep. We talk about this as often as we can because it's once a week or so that we have a dealer who moves to DealerOn and says, well, I want my analytics history. And they are told, sorry, you can't have it. It belongs to us. So absolutely make sure, set up this Gmail account for yourself. Your work email is fantastic and fine. It doesn't mean that that can't have permissions, but this main Gmail account, it's so, so important. And we always have somebody afterwards who says, I'm going to do that right away. So that's your first bit of homework for today.
Yep.
All right, let's start Search Console, right?
My baby, my favorite, and I will always contend the most underutilized tool within digital marketing. And that's not just because I come from an SEO background. Search Console, as I like to explain it, is the organic Google Ads. Google Ads is going to be where you run your ads, but you also get the data for impressions, keywords, clicks. For paid search, Search Console is telling you that information for organic. It's telling you what types of searches you're showing up. All of those different pieces live within Search Console. And as much as I love Search Console and it's an amazing tool, sometimes Google does this thing where they think they know automotive better than we do. And the vehicle listing errors that come out of Search Console are the number one pain point I have with it. And you'll see in this example, Google Search Console is going to tell you you have an invalid field type for body. But then when you go to the example, it tells you the body type on that vehicle is SUV. I am unsure of what else you want for a body if it's not SUV and all of those things. So that like it's just not got it together. And when you read why they rolled out this in Search Console, it was for independent car dealers. It wasn't for anybody who has their feed in their Google business profile or running VLAs. Google would prefer to get information off of that feed. This is just that cute nugget of information. So it is the check but verify that if it Google Search Console or honestly any of the Google products say the sky is falling, look up and check. And
Yeah,
just double check that and make sure that it really is an issue and not just Google not understanding auto.
you added this in here, I think, because you were getting a few questions of what's wrong, something's wrong, it's being flagged. So this is one, unfortunately, it says you can't clear it from the system. Any other of the Console kind of errors or issues that you see that dealers should be on the lookout for?
This is some of the biggest ones right now. The other thing is that in the systems, this happens in DealerOn, when a vehicle sells, the link is still out there and it will do a soft 404 to the search results page. Search Console will tell you you have a bunch of 404 errors. Well, yes, technically that is true. It's not a bad thing. The vehicle getting sold and dropping off and Google catching up to that and redirecting the user to the right place, that's a good 404. So it's things like that of being able to say, okay, Google says this, but let's look at this with that automotive lens and see if it really is an issue.
Right. Yeah. I think you said stop, look, but verify. I think
Yes.
that's really important. Yes. All right. So the error is great, but what should dealers be doing with Console and how does it help them that
Yes.
maybe they're
And so
not?
this is SEO is always going to be about showing up when the search happens. You can't make people search, you can't control what they search. And so Search Console is going to help you understand what people are searching for organically and where you're showing up. So right now, there's 4 different areas in Search Console where you can get this data, and it really does give you impressions, click-through rate, ranking, all of those things. Web, image, video, and news. Most of us aren't going to show up for news because despite the blogs you all are writing that are amazing, it is not considered a news site. But the web and image are great. Google will also start adding in the Gemini search results. So your impressions and clicks from the AI search at some point in 2025, they said. So we'll see when that comes in. But where this comes into play is when you want to understand what your overall presence is. People are going to search every way possible known, and they're going to use weird searches, and they're going to be on their phone at 9:30 at night watching the newest episode of The Bear, trying to think about other things. So you want to make sure you're looking at it holistically. One of the things I like is that Search Console will tell you and compare your web clicks versus your image clicks and searches. So you can start to say, hey, I'm getting a lot of searches around my images. I should be doing some SEO work for that. Maybe if I'm not seeing anything for my images, it's time for some SEO strategy around best practices and images to expand that. Because people are going to search and Google's going to give people every way to search. So you want to make sure you're understanding how you show up in all those ways.
Yeah, I pressed you on this. I said,
Yes.
okay, because there's a lot of information that we see GA4 everywhere. Good, looks interesting. Great, happy to see it. Why do I care? Tell me what my next step is. So yeah, I appreciate that. And this is where those SEO strategies, it's a good check and balance there. You mentioned Gemini, you mentioned AI. That's the word of the day, I think.
Yep.
So talk to us about this because this is emerging. It's important how it impacts search. It's still what you see might not be what you get right now. So tell us a
Exactly.
little bit
And
about this.
yeah, so these are the Gemini specific definitions that are going to show up within Search Console. We have a whole AI section later where Erin and I have hot takes, and I have a hot take that her and I have been conversing on all week. But this is really the same type of definitions that you see within Google Ads, but it's going to be within the Gemini AI search. And that's the idea that if you show up in an AI search, you'll see the impression, what the position is and where it goes from that, as well as the clicks through. A key important thing, and I'm going to be talking about this a million different ways, so don't even worry if it goes over the head the first time. This is the first of many times we're going to talk about this. Google has said that when somebody, you do your first search in Gemini, you ask about who, like, what is the highway mileage for this SUV? Then you ask a second question about the SUV. Google right now is not connecting those sessions being from the same person. So I could ask Gemini 8 different questions about car searching, and my dealership shows up for half of them. That would look like 4 individual people searching, not one person searching 4 times. Silly and absurd, I know, but we'll keep talking about this as Google rolls out more of that.
And Julia has a question, and we were expecting this one. And if you want to talk about it now or if you want to wait, people are starting to tell her that they're finding the dealership on Chat GPT. Are people really using AI to search for dealerships now? Is there anything we need to keep an eye on so we're able to be found this way? Stay tuned.
Yes, stay tuned. The whole section, and I didn't even plant that question, but I knew that question would be there. So the whole section I built out in this is for that. And yes, I'm getting really excited about it, but I'm very excited about being able to decipher what's actually happening there. So we will go through and hit that section in just a little bit. Google Business Profile. Google Places. I was looking at data the other day, and one of y'all still has Google Plus in your UTM tags, and I am here for that level of for throwback. So, the Google Business Profile, for better or for worse, it's here. This is also one of the things that if you are not owning it, it's going to cause headaches for you later. To what Jillian just talked about, your Google Business Profile is now showing within the AI searches. This was a Chat GPT search looking for dealerships in Grapevine, and this is what's showing up. So all of those SEO basics that we do, the image optimization, best practices, it's like all those 1990, early 2000 SEO best practices still matter, but now we're doing it not for the searcher, but for the searcher and the AI search tool they're using. We still need to do all those things. There's just now another place we're feeding information into. The other part that Google is expanding, where your Google business profile really comes into play, one, they're doing ask, you can basically talk to the map and ask questions, but also they're using their AI tools for their review summaries. So it goes back to, like I keep saying, those basics of making sure you're getting reviews, making sure they're talking about things. If you've got negative reviews, working to fix them and asking them after you resolve the problem, asking them to update reviews. All those things that we started doing years and years and years ago matter once again. It's just feeding it to a new place beyond the searcher. Merchant Center Google Business Profile. This is one of those weird new things that Google said, hey, these two are now connected, and they never really told anybody why they should. And this is Google Whisperer knowledge, not actual Google telling us knowledge. Every time we've had issues with VLAs and the Merchant Center troubles and verifying, connecting the business profile to Merchant Center fixed all of our feed problems. I don't know why, but over and over again, if you're having any issues with the VLA, connecting those two things seem to make Google calm down. So there's your Google Whisperer nugget for the day.
Yeah, you put this in here and I said, "Are you sure?" Because that seems strange. How difficult is it to do this step to connect them?
It is a very simple thing. Also, when you have your one email that's the owner on both your business profile and your Merchant Center account, it's like 2 clicks to do it. But you basically go into Merchant Center, find your listing, and select connect them.
Got it.
It's a
Okay.
little Google Whisperer nugget that doesn't make any sense, but over and over again, all of my VLA feed Merchant Center setting up problems get fixed when you do that.
That's strange. Well, don't make promises that you can't keep. It's
I
not
know.
even all your problems, maybe, but a lot of them,
Yes.
hopefully. All right, perfect. Okay, so ads is the other one. Now, you already mentioned earlier that this is the one area where you might not own
Yes.
Google Ads.
And
Okay,
that's okay because ownership of a Google Ads account is connected to the payment credit card and all of those, the payment account. There is many instances and ways where you're not going to be the owner, and that is okay. You should have at least read access to everything. There's not special secret sauce, there's not proprietary secrets. It's all the same thing. Everyone's singing out of the same hymnal when they're looking at Google Ads. So you should be able to have that access and see what's going on there.
awesome. Perfect. Okay, what else with Google Ads?
The Google Ads. This is the primary thing of this is Google's world and we're just living in it. We hate to feed the beast, but everyone's feeding the beast and we must be able to play within there. But as you're trying to think about what feeding the beast goes into, there's a couple of things that I've seen a lot that I want to talk about. And this is the idea that all of your campaigns should have a primary and secondary conversion. Additionally, your campaign primary conversion should be answering that question. Should answer the question, what is the goal of running this advertising? If I'm running to VLAs, it's leads on the vehicle listing. If I'm running model awareness and I'm running to the search results, I don't want a page view. I want inventory searches occurring. If I'm trying to run to service, that might be the page view. So realize that there's not one primary conversion in Google Ads that applies to everything. That's just not going to work. And you need to make sure that your partner, your advertising partner, can also answer that question. What is the goal of spending this money? That should be your primary conversion.
Okay, so a few questions here. Shelby wants to know, which ASC events do we equate that to?
Oh, I can tell you, and I got some good, I don't know if I call them hot takes, but they're the Google Whisperer opinions.
Be careful, I'm watching you.
I know.
Okay, you're
The
allowed a hot take.
ASC form submission. There's derivatives of that that are sales, that are service, that are parts. If you're running a service and parts, maybe focus on that. But otherwise, the sale or the form submission should be your lead primary one.
Okay.
And the same with the digital retailing. There'll be a retail one for the digital retailing. For phone calls, you can work with your call provider to send in the comms data and do that. So each one of those things has a submission event. That's what I would use, but I would use the more general form submission just because somebody may have fat fingered the form when they put it in there, so it doesn't have a name that matches sales, and you might not get the information. It's cleaner that way. You're getting what you want.
Okay, perfect. And back to the ownership of ads before we move forward. Can two vendors or users have ownership of Google Ads? What happens if you're changing vendors?
If you're changing vendors, sometimes people are like, you should move it over, you should do all of that. No, I would, and this is a Google Whisperer opinion. Now, this is not, I've gone to the school of Google. If I was switching advertising vendors, I want to move over to the new one and ramp up on them. Because while there's not secret sauce in Google Ads, each advertising vendor is setting things up a little differently. And you want to make sure that Google's learning this new model you're using with your new vendor. So I would do a net new anytime you make that kind of switch. I would pull your historical data before I made the switch and share it with your new partner, but I'm not of the opinion that you should be moving the Google Ads account around.
Okay, and I think that that makes sense, and I think that's one of the things important to answer because it's one of those answers you get from a vendor. It's an answer you'll get from us, and you think, "Is that right? Is that
Yeah.
unique?" It is right. That's one of those things where we're here to tell you it's okay.
It is okay because Google sees every agency differently. So you want to make sure that you're getting the best out of how Google sees your new advertising partner.
Perfect. I see more questions on ASC. I'm going to answer those in the
Okay.
chat. Um,
And then I'm going to talk about secondary conversions for a bit because this is my new, we should all be thinking about secondary conversions.
Perfect. Do that, and then I'll come back to you with more
Okay.
ASC.
So the secondary conversions right now in Google Ads are just for reporting purposes. I say right now because it's only a matter of time before Google starts using primary and secondary conversions for optimization. They're going to figure out that data and they're going to try to figure out how they can get more money off of you out of that data. So it's a good time just to know. It's also a great for awareness that, like, so say you're running your VLAs and you've optimized for form submissions, the ASC form submission, but then you've got your secondary conversion for photo clicks. You could see over time that you're getting a better return on selling that vehicle based off of photo click activity than if somebody submits a lead. If so, it's great to know the bigger picture of that data. We are an industry that still drives and talks about leads way more than we should. And so this is a chance to think about what does that big picture of my data look like and how do we want to be thinking about it? And you probably have some more ASC, so I'm going to move to the next slide because we're going to talk about ASC for a second. So it's
Perfect.
perfect timing. When,
Okay.
yeah,
Do you want me
ask
to
away.
go? Me,
No, no,
you,
no,
me,
ask
you?
away.
All right. So we've got questions about the secondary for ASC. I am going to share a resource in the chat that is going to answer some of these, courtesy of Max Jacobson, who I know is on our team and a friend of yours. That's why I'm going like this. I'm getting the information. Let's see what order. A lot of questions about VLA and PMAX together. Do you want those now? Yes?
Next slide.
Okay, perfect. So let me save that. Secondary. My ad agency only uses the Google Ads goal of ASC form submission, which doesn't catch all form submissions, right? Shouldn't they also use CTA button clicks? In-
That would go into the same way you would look at that for a secondary conversion. Because realistically, yes, the primary conversion is going to be form submissions. That's what you're starting with. But if I was running VLAs, I would add in secondary conversions of photo clicks and CTAs and then start to look and say, is it better data if we have Google optimized to the CTA or to the photo click? There's not going to be a blanket answer to that. It's going to be giving Google all the possible data and then looking at it and saying, this is the right primary conversion, these are the right secondary.
Okay, perfect. Let's see. I'm going to jump around a little. Google products and cars for sale listing are missing on some of the GBP pages. I'm going to save that for the end. Marketing company is asking to have third-party vendors stop running VLA because if they appear, we cannot appear. Like it's causing a trouble with organic search, maybe?
It shouldn't be causing a trouble with organic search, but yes, only like in the VLA bidding, if you have two companies bidding on the same URL, Google's only going to show one of them. So if you've got someone else running the VLAs, if you have two agencies, one's running VLAs, the other one should not be running VLAs because then you're just wasting money and you're driving up the one that is running VLAs by also bidding on it.
Okay,
Bit of
perfect.
a eating your own traffic type of thing.
Okay, I see more. I want to make sure we keep going. So let me ask one more. Can you further explain why it's important to have secondary conversions as you move here to the
Yes.
ASC?
First off, it is a chance to know, like I said, the bigger picture, but understanding not only what drives in terms of leads, but what other engagement is happening on a VLA. And it's good to give Google that information. One, because it helps you understand, like you can start to look at the cost per those secondary conversions and understand how much you're costing to get a photo click, how much you've got to pay to get a CTA click. There's also going to be instances where you will look at that data and realize you should not be optimizing for form submissions. This is a radical thing, I'm aware, because everyone's like, you optimize VLA to form submission. You may find that you get a much better return on photo clicks, and inventory moves faster based off of photo clicks or CTA button clicks. So by having those secondary conversions, you're able to look at that big picture and figure out what is the right primary. And finally, this is the part where Google hasn't said it yet, but it's only a matter of time before Google starts to use secondary conversions for optimization. So we might as well just start getting our data prepped because Google's going to be Google anyway, and it's always good to get ahead of the game.
Perfect.
Speaking of the ASC, when you're wanting to bring in that information, you go into this is my friends who've been around for a while. We have our little Hansel and Gretel breadcrumb path there. So you go into the conversion settings and you can import. Because your account is the owner of GA4 and has read access to Google Ads, you can do that. PMAX. So for my friends that had the PMAX question, have a good slide because there are some very good updates. Yes, it's taken Google like 5 years to give us what we've been asking for about PMAX, but they have recently rolled out the exclusion reporting and made it easier to exclude keywords from campaigns. It has also created new reporting for device and location. And in the screenshot you're seeing here, it's also giving you what channels are performing best. And what does that mean? This is a chance to say that, hey, my Google Display Network is driving so much, but my Gmail is my advertising on Gmail. All of these are the different channels that PMAX can be shown into, and you can start to understand where you're getting the best results. So I've added in some questions because this is not unless you're one of my friends doing everything in-house, this is about just asking your advertising partner, now that we know device and location, are we doing any changes to our PMAX? Have we looked at that? What's the best performing channel for our PMAX right now? Are we going to try to focus more on that than some of the other ones? So there's just a chance to finally have a better conversation with data for PMAX, but this is new, so not everyone is used to it. So just have the conversation, bring it up and chat with them about that.
All right, so I saved this. Arthur wants to know, should we run VLA and PMAX together or have a PMAX that only has VLA turned on, no other, and a separate PMAX with all the other assets?
If I was setting up the campaigns, I would do a PMAX for just VLA and then do a separate PMAX for everything else. VLA is a unique beast that does not interact like the rest of the site. So you want to you have the best advantage if you set it up that way for Google to know what's going on.
Okay, perfect. And so Christopher wants to know, this is a good strategy question. I love this. So we have too many yellow page ads, meaning generic with our name. Are the budgets for sales, not service? So looking at, which we see quite often, is when we're looking at Google Ads, it's sales based. We forget our fixed ops friends, which I hate, but I understand. How do we answer every generic Google question with a specific vehicle offer? We're being told we can't. We have to answer kind of generically, versus delivering that customized offer in ads.
And that's where setting up the different campaigns of knowing that you've got a why buy that's really focused on your why buy brand. You've got the other pieces. You've also, this is going to be the first Google Whisperer hot take of the slide, because not everyone in the industry will agree with me. You should not be using Google Search Network. And I know I've got at least 5 people right now who, if I ask, did you ever get a lead come in and it showed up the source like that syndicated search.goog? Love that. Or did you ever get a lead from somebody out of state that has never contacted you before or done any of that? Like some suspicion, you're like, this is a bot. It's not a bot. It's the bad traffic from the Google search network.
We're in the bad place. That's what I just thought. Sorry. Okay. So
honestly, yes, it is.
Kyle wants to know, it seems like Google's pushing more tools that allow businesses to create and manage their own ad campaigns, potentially reducing the need for an agency. Is that accurate? Or from your perspective, would it be smarter for a dealership to are there advantages to working with an agency? I think yes, just even for those of you who have it dialed in, which many of you do, there is so much to take charge of and and benefits of scale, Colleen, right?
And that's just it. And there's also Google's making these tools for every business on the internet in every range of things. So it's a one size fits all, which is not going to be automotive friendly all the time. So that while yes, there's ways that you could take things in-house, unless you have the time to fully commit, having a partner, like you all have 12 million things every hour. Having a partner that you can have focus on that, because there are automotive specific ways that you need to pull those handles, that's what that's for. We're good
Right.
about making sure that we know what the best practice is, how you should probably take out Google Search Network because it delivers a lot of low quality ads. And here's how to opt out if you're getting those or you want to ask your vendor about it. So that's what I would say to that.
So Julia has a question. She says it might be dumb. I don't think it's dumb.
Never done.
At you, people are thinking it. Do Auto Trader, Cars.com, other third parties that run VLAs, does that hurt dealership VLAs? Be careful. And I see you, which means it's a hot take.
It,
So,
well, it there's not a yes or no is the thing. In in like metro areas, yes, it could hurt you because there's limited real estate. But otherwise, search is so personal that you don't um it's not going to run into each other. Like everybody's getting that personalized results, but they're just going to be, there's not a yes or no. There's some instances where I'd be like, we got way too many people trying to hawk the same vehicle.
right, right. Though that makes sense. Okay. All right. I'm gonna, last question from our friend Melinda here in Seattle. Can we optimize to certain channels in PMAX, or does the Google AI just decide it knows what's best?
Yes and no. Well, you can't optimize with the new reporting, and I'm going to bounce back here for a second. You are going to understand what channel is performing best and what type of. Then, once you know like what channel and what keywords or like what devices are performing best, there's best practices for optimizing for that. So if you find out, for example, that your best performing is mobile Gmail ads, then you know exactly I need to make sure that we're running well done mobile Gmail ads because you follow all those generic best practices and Google PMAX is going to love that. So that's where it's like taking the data to impact your strategy, but it's one of the many data points.
Okay, got it. I'm going to let you keep going. We are going to have a wrap up at the end. I just want to make sure you get through all your planned content here.
Okay, and now
Perfect.
we're getting into the dirty word of this Google Tag Manager. Google Tag Manager is basically a door to enter your website to be able to install other code on it. Every developer and engineer listening to me right now is cringing, and I'm fully aware, and I love you for that. But it is just kind of this doorway that helps you install. Here's the dirty secret that no one wants to say out loud about Google Tag Managers or GTM. Everybody uses them. Website providers use them, OEMs use them, agencies use them, dealers use them. Everybody uses them. The fact that a GTM exists and is on your site is not a bad thing. It is the fastest and most efficient way to be able to deliver a bunch of code onto the website. What goes into the GTM is the thing that matters. And a lot of times, like you'll buy a new tool whiz bang piece, and they'll say, hey, if you get this GTM installed, we can do all the work. In instances like that, if you're trying to get code installed, first check with your website provider. DealerOn has the on marketplace and the trusted advisors. So everybody has streamlined processes to get something installed where they call it like a native install and doesn't have to rely on another GTM. So if you're approaching it that way, that means that you're able to say, hey, we know that we have to use GTM for some things, but if we don't have to use it for this, it's an overall better site speed experience.
Yeah, GTMs are the hot topic out there. And I think it's good. I think it's important. I think for so long we've looked at site speed as an industry the last few years, and we didn't get this granular as to what is really impacting it. We focused a lot on images for a long time, videos. Everybody loves a good drone video, all of that. So it's an important conversation, but it isn't black and white. It isn't
Yep.
GTMs are horrible. It isn't here's what your website provider didn't do. It's here's what the vendor. We're all a part of this problem. We're all a part of the solution. So just, your notes to audit it, your notes to work with your vendors. At DealerOn, the way that we are approaching third-party integration, it's your website. We're going to put what you want on there, but we are here to protect you as well. And that is by the way we're going to do that is by partnering out there with through our on marketplace so that when we are installing code, when we are installing containers, we know what's going on. We make it fast, we make it more natively integrated, which is a better solution for those core web vitals. So really that blog there has some good tips. It's just a good conversation to have with your website provider. I know many dealers who, and I sort of agree, is I'm gonna turn them all off and I'm gonna see who calls me and I'm gonna see what it breaks. And it's not a bad strategy. We know those OEM ones, we're not gonna get y'all in trouble there, but work with your providers. If you have questions, reach out to us. But this is a good one. It's an important topic. We can't
And
miss it.
we all need to realize that they're not a good or bad thing.
Right.
They need to be looked at as the unique flowers they are.
Sure.
Ha. Okay. Now we're going to get into the fun stuff. I did hot because I am very excited about some of the things going on. First and foremost, annotations are back, people. They are back, and we're all very excited by this. You can get to that in the admin screen as I talk about and have our breadcrumbs here, or this cute little post-it note icon is where you can start annotating any of the reports. I love how Google just throws another icon on there but doesn't really say what it's about. Key thing with annotation, two key things with annotation. You have to be editor or above. This is one of those things where you have to have at least edit access to add them. And once you add them, everyone who has access to Google Analytics will be able to see it.
So give me an example of how you use annotations on just in the day to day. I
I'm
put you
glad
on the
you
spot.
asked because I have so many thoughts about this. First off, I would use annotation to note down anytime like there was a published Google algorithm update. We all talk about unofficial or official, but Moz or Search Engine Land will always tell you when a published one happens. I would always annotate those down. But I'm really using annotations to say, on March 1st, we added these new banners, or on May 1st, we changed the CTA layout. So then when you're making bigger website changes and you want to go back and look at the data, now GA4 is going to know what you did on each month and be able to see what's going on. Because you can also set it for multiple days, you can say, hey, during this month, we increased our paid search budget by $4,000. So then in 6 months, when you can't even remember yesterday, your data is going to know, oh, yeah, our paid search traffic went up because of that. Or pre-tariff shopping, everyone had a really amazing March and April, and then it kind of went back down to normal because everyone realized they did not need to panic buy. Putting in things like that so you don't have to remember all the pieces about the data.
Okay. Perfect. All right. You had an answer. I thought I was going to
No,
stump you there for a
I know.
minute.
No, I'm so okay. AI search tools. I just get very excited. And also Erin and I have been going back and forth for a long time about this, and it's very good. When I talk about this idea of AI search tools, this is the Chat GPT, Gemini, Perplexity, Microsoft's Copilot, whatever new thing is getting released tomorrow, I have no idea about. Those type of tools where you ask the questions and it pulls in search results and they get their personalized search experience. Few things to note about this. I even got good posture to stand up to talk about this. The most recent studies talk about there's about 15 million people right now that are using AI search, any one of these, as their primary search tool.
Primary, that's important. Not using
Yes,
Google, using
yes.
ChatGPT. Okay.
But you don't see that reflected in the data. And that is because the idea that, well, yes, people are using it, they're not using it within that entire shopping journey. Remember, there's 24 different or excuse me, there's 24 touch points before somebody buys a car. 19 of them are digital. AI search is now one of those digital touch points that came in. And I texted Erin last night because I remembered I had the great. My sister just purchased their Toyota from up in North Seattle, the Linwood Toyota. I was like, the Linwood store up there. Love it. It's great. When I was discussing this webinar and we were just talking about things, Marianne was like, oh no, that makes sense. I asked ChatGPT about like miles on the highway, but I'm not asking ChatGPT to buy me a car. I'm still looking at the car. Once she figured out what she wanted in that maker model, to go back to 2008, got their way all the way down the funnel, she was not relying on that at all and going and looking at dealer websites for that specific information.
Right.
So
Yeah.
we see right now less than 1% of traffic coming from ChatGPT, AI search, whatever you want to call it, but that's just because it's what makes it all the way through.
Right. That's the click. It doesn't mean that it's not impacting. So Julia's question earlier, are people really using AI to search for dealerships? Maybe, but they are using it as a part of their search journey. The data and the analytics is still catching up with
Yep.
what it all means. So, is there anything we need to keep an eye on to make sure we are found via chat? And I think, Colleen, you're going to say it's the same things we're always going to recommend, which is highly personalized content, informative, relevant content. I know we're
Yep.
working on another blog about the search rankings. So, what's your answer to Julia?
The thing to think about is we've always thought about we're optimizing our website for when the searcher is looking for something. When somebody wants to know what's leaking under their car, they're going to Google to ask that. Intelligent people are going to Google to figure out what's leaking under their car before they talk to a repair place. Now, instead of just optimizing for the person, there's this new lane where it's the same type of questions going on, but you have to feed it into the chat GPT crawling and all of that. The other part of the AI search and all of this is that they use the same crawlers that get used by like Google and Bing. Gemini is run by Google. ChatGPT and a lot of the other major providers basically follow Bool. I can just combine words together and butcher them all. They follow Bing's optimization. So Bing Webmaster Tools is about to become everybody's favorite best friend because that's going to give you a good idea about what you need to do to be relevant for that. So it's not like I have to ignore my shoppers and only focus on AI search, or I'm only focusing on AI search and I have to ignore my shoppers. There's just a new lane that we're optimizing to. And just like 8 years ago, Google pulled all the information into the search results, this is the newest iteration of that. So, in order to start to at least see in Google Analytics the traffic, this is going to be the filter you want to create. Most important thing in this filter, it is only using session source. Y'all know when you've been with me for a while, I love me a source medium like nobody's business. And if you try to build this with source medium, it won't work. I tell you that from a fact because I spent an hour yesterday thinking I screwed up the formula only to realize I was doing the wrong dimension. So only session source, and then you're going to paste in this regex. And the regex is not a real regex. I want that to be clear. For all my engineers listening right now, I am not a regex writer. You're looking at this and just 100% going like, here are the 8 ways I could refactor this code. Fully aware. What a regex does is take all the different sources that could exist and puts them into one sentence, basically. takes 8 different things and combines them into one sentence so Google knows if I need to look at all the session source mediums, that's what I'm looking for.
So for those of you who regex is not a word you've ever heard or used before, like me, don't worry, you're not alone. And that is actually one of the questions before you get to the next slide. I want to level set a little. So this person says Google Analytics tags, all these things, it's leaped past any knowledge I had about Google, SEO, etc. Yet my company's still counting on me to know how to optimize our sites, do our ads, to know all these things. Where can I start from scratch and learn everything Google, things like this from a reliable, reputable source? Well, you've come to the right place first, let me say that. But what else do you recommend for something like this where I know we've got people sitting looking at the screen like,
Yep.
what are you talking about?
There are 2 places I would go. One, and it's not just because I read the blogs there and they're really good blogs, but we at DealerOn are getting really good about doing the automotive focus of things. Because there's the SEO best practices, there's all of those things, and then there is what it matters to automotive. So, yeah, shameless self promotion, fully aware. The site that the Google Whisperer uses and has used for 25 plus years, Search Engine Land. SearchEngineLand.com. They have some of the best people writing. I've written for them before. I've taught classes for them before. They have and they cover all things digital marketing.
Yep.
Honestly, their daily email that comes into my inbox teaches me more than anything else some days. And I trust them. I've always trusted them. I literally have been on the internet for almost 30 years building websites, and they have been my go-to tool that whole time.
Perfect.
And
Yeah.
they're just nice people there too. They explain things very well in a just not being pretentious, we're just going to talk about it way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, for many of you, get involved in these conversations, asking your questions. You're not the only person out there who has it. Look at some of the conferences that are out there and the ways to connect. I think it's really important. So yes, this slide in particular, when I see all the gobbledygook, the important regex, excuse me, it starts to feel overwhelming. But, okay, so getting back to it, more on AI search, which we did promise. What else do we need to know?
Yes. First off, this is the most annoying thing, and I expect it to be fixed, and I would have liked it to be fixed yesterday. A lot of the AI search traffic is coming in as unassigned, and there's no way to fix it. And that's annoying because you know what? We have spent a lot of years talking about not set unassigned traffic and how to fix UTM tags, and then they come through and say, ha, just kidding. The good news is, though, is that Chat GPT is starting to recognize the links so that, like, if you were pulling in your Google Business Profile link, like you have all of those UTM tags, if they have shown your business profile and shown that link, they're reflecting it within the source medium. I also expect and this is where keep checking our blog will come into play. This is going to be continually updating and we'll keep talking about it
Perfect.
because this is new territory for everyone. So I think that's the other thing I'd want to say. If all this is feeling very overwhelming, you're okay. We are
Yeah.
at the right time to start talking about this. This is the first of like a million different things we're going to talk about when it comes to this and how we understand how AI search fits in automotive. So don't feel overwhelmed if you're like, blah. You're at the right place. And honestly, those same basic practices of marketing and SEO matter just as much here.
Yeah. So this is things we can't fix, but I know you've got one more slide before we open up the Q&A again, which is here's what you can do.
Yes.
Okay.
So the frustrating thing, we'll start to get data from Google's Gemini, but ChatGPT right now is like almost 70% of users are using ChatGPT. It's like 67, 68 right now is the most recent stat I read. They have no incentive to give you any data. They don't care about giving you any data. So you've got to, like we were talking about with Google Ads, take little data pieces to put together that story. And that's where this AI search filter will tell you a bunch of things. So if you're in GA4 and apply the AI search filter to the pages and screens report, you're going to know entirely what pages are showing up in chat and you're getting traffic from. That's going to be the first place to start to understand what are the pages that people are really coming in. I was looking at one dealership this last week and they had an ally financing FAQ page through the roof. Through the roof.
I love an FAQ page. That's my favorite SEO for leasing. Oh my gosh, think about how
Yeah.
confusing
And
leasing
that's
is.
the type of content that the AI search bots are looking for. Because
Abs-
somebody at some point just said, Chat GPT, do I qualify for an AI, ally loan or whatever it is? That's what they're thinking about at 10:30 when they're doom scrolling on TikTok. They're
Yeah.
also thinking that. We'll ask Chat GPT that.
Yeah, talk about fixed ops. I could go on. I'm excited for this because I think the AI search results are really it's your consciousness. It's the dumb questions. It's the questions you
It
don't
is.
want to ask a human, but you have no shame in typing it in to talk to a robot. Yeah.
Yep. And you're also then going to see, and for my friends who've been around before, and we've talked about those custom page view events, like a Silverado event will tell you every time you got a page view where Silverado was in the URL. I now know the top model being shown for ChatGPT, AI search, whatever, is the Silverado. I'm getting the most interest of the Silverado based off of that. So when you start to look at it that way, you can piece together the data that ChatGPT is never going to give you.
Yeah. And if you're not seeing a core model, it could be an indicator that your site doesn't have enough content to be showing up for those AI searches, and
Yeah.
it's an area to focus. So, a question on this and sort of the previous slide, we've seen an increase in direct traffic with the introduction of AI tools and no source medium. Is there a way to go around this?
Nope. We have to wait for them to catch up to this for the same way the unassigned, or they're just starting to look at doing that. Google Whisper expectations later this year, most likely this fall. We're going to
Yeah.
get an updated channel grouping out of GA to reflect chat gpt if it's in referral, organic, whatever, but they've got to do updates on their end before it will start to reflect properly.
Okay. Perfect.
So that's it.
All right.
We're not behind.
We're
It
not
feels
behind.
like we're behind when it comes to AI search and chat GPT and all of that. We're not. We're in a good place. We're going to be on top of it, but it's not behind at all.
Absolutely. All right. We did great on time. So here's what we're going to do. I have about 10 questions in the chat and I'm going back to the top. So let's
Okay.
go. We're going to start these tips and tricks. These are in the deck. Absolutely. You can read through them. Colleen touched on every single point already on here. It's a good recap. Google Search Console. How do you get control of Google Search Console? So how do you start?
First, I would start by checking with the website provider if they've installed it because they can add you as a owner. It's very easy to add somebody as an owner to Google Search Console and they can add you in right away. If your website provider doesn't have one on there, then you can really just go to Search Console, add your domain. It will give you a little script to add to your website and then have them install that.
Perfect. All right. Let me see. GBP. I got a few things on GBP. What are your thoughts on posting all GBP offers at the beginning of the month versus time releasing them throughout the month? Any impact to search?
I'm released all the way. You want all the things looking at all the machines are looking at your Google business profile. You want them to see constant content coming, not everything at the beginning of the month.
If it's possible, time released is better. If it's
Yeah,
not, having something up there at the start is always going to be better than nothing. But that's a
very
good
true.
tip. Hold on, I got more GBP. I gotta scroll. I gotta scroll. I gotta scroll. You guys are my favorite in the chat. A little bit. Can Merchant Center be used to get inventory to display on GBP, or is Vehicle Listings Partner the only way to show inventory on a GBP?
Vehicle for the organic GBP, vehicle listing partner is the only one to show it. And also, if you're trying to figure out who is your vehicle listing partner, when you go into management of it, you can find the screen that will tell you that. When you go into manage your Google business profile, like you were going to update the hours, the screen will be there to be able to show you that.
Perfect. I got a question. Okay, let's move to the next slide. I think I got Google Ads was the section. This is telling me we need a whole webinar on Google Ads. I'm going to tell you.
Oh,
So
I
that's
would love, let's do that.
yes. Answered live. Perfect. Okay, so we talked a little bit about changing vendors for Google Ads, but clarify a little bit. Is there any harm in having two vendors run Google Ads simultaneously? This dealer was told at one point from a digital ads provider that having two vendors run ads could reduce optimization, be bad, and even be against Google's terms and conditions.
So you can have two, just as long as they're not trying to, there are clear boundaries. So, like, say you wanted to use one for service and one for sales, 100%. Fixed op vendor is going to know different things than like a new car sales vendor. If you're going to have two dealerships or two agencies doing new car, that's where you're going to just run into
Yeah,
cannibalization. It's not a pretty thing. But like
right.
a fixed op vendor and a sales vendor, totally okay.
Yeah, and if you do have two, I mean, the question I think my response is why? Why two? Are you
Yep.
checking performance against? I understand, but maybe if you're a group, consider an A/B test with different stores. Yeah, my question is why? What's the benefit to doing it that way? So yeah.
And also, the answer to that why could be I had this conversation once. I was like, do you know that you're spending money on these display ads and they're not really converting? And they said, yes, but we get free tickets. And the owner's daughter likes that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to
You
do what you
know, if
do.
that's why you're going to spend the money, that works for me.
Don't
So,
hate the player, hate the game. So, all right. So you were talking about Google Merchant Center. Can we show our cars in the free product listings in addition to VLA and the GBP?
nope. They have
No.
not, the free product listing has not moved over to automotive yet.
Okay. Good idea,
And
though.
it doesn't really make it clear. So I've known a bunch of people who try to make it work and it doesn't. So that's just, yeah. Cars for sale is organic, VLA is paid search. Those are the two sources.
Okay. You mentioned channel performance found in Google Ads, and a few people said, "What are you talking about? Is that new? Where is it? How do I find it?"
It is new, and I'm going to click back here quickly.
Is this one where I made you put ClickPath, or did I miss one?
I think we missed it on that,
Okay,
but that's okay.
we'll get there.
So yes. Oh no, but it's on the side. Ha! I knew I was smart.
Okay.
So underneath insights and reporting, you'll see channel performance. If it's not there yet, they're rolling it out every day.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so there are dealers who might not have it yet.
You might not have it yet, but I'm seeing it every more and more every day in there. But yes, it's right under insights and reports, channel performance.
Okay, and I'm going to put this in there, but if you aren't sure or anything today, email us webinars@dealeron.com. We will look, we will have you send us a screenshot that comes straight to me. Um, Need us, hopefully that's a full sentence I'm sending through. Okay, get back all the way to the end. While you do that, are you hearing any information? And when I say hearing info, are you driving any information in the ASC in terms of new updates for ASC_events?
Yes. Oh, we're always hanging out with the ASC because we love it.
Yes.
Yes, we're also looking at first we're though, this is good. We're looking at some data around ASC and finding some of those wins and case studies of things like because we had ASC, we saw this. So not actually event updates or like schema updates, but looking at a talking more about best practices of how ASC got used in a strategy and being able to provide people guidance around that.
Okay. Perfect. Go ahead. One more slide. We're finishing up here on ads. You're doing great. Is there any reason? I have feelings about this. I'm going to let you answer it though. Is there any reason our ad agent should not give us access to a read-only version of Google Ads?
No, if they're not giving you read only access to your Google ads, it is time to find yourself a new partner.
Right. And it's important. You read access. We have
Yeah.
said they may not be able to give you ownership access, But read access, that's like your accountant telling you you can't look at your books. It doesn't make any
Yes,
sense.
100%.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I think I got everything. I'm gonna keep looking. If I missed you, email me. Next month, I'm going to be joined by Tina Quado, our Senior Director of Product, Highway to the Conversion Zone. It's everything I can do to not sing it. Will I have a Kenny Loggins reference or 15? Yes, probably. We are going to be talking about the tools on your website that you need to make sure that you are not only getting leads, increasing engagement, converting. So it's going to be a fantastic session. We will include that for you. I know Data Hub, we talked a little bit about DealerOn reporting. We're right at time though. So I'm going to let everybody go. I'll catch up with all these questions. But Colleen, great session. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's always fun to come back for these.
We'll have you back again soon. Bye, everyone.